Welcome back to Tech by Pike. Today we are going to be talking about the iPad Pro, specifically the 12.9 version. This one I got last year and it has the M1 and I have been using it daily. It's my daily driver. I use it for web surfing, emailing, content consumption. I use it for my YouTube channel and creating thumbnails. I use FaceTime where I can connect up with family and friends. And I got to be honest with you, if I match it up with my pencil here and my Magic Keyboard, it becomes my laptop. And there is some debate about whether this can replace a laptop. But so far, for over a year that I've had it, it's not failed me in what I've needed as a daily driver. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect all that. So today I went ahead and went out and got the new iPad Pro 12.9 with the M2 chip. Now, I've seen some videos and read some articles, and I do realize there's not a lot of difference between this iPad with the M2 and this iPad with the M1, other than the fact that it's an M2 versus an M1. And but everything else apparently is essentially the same. And we'll make sure it is. If there's any differences, we'll definitely put it in this video. So there you go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to unbox this. We're going to do some benchmarking on both, and we're going to do some comparison. And then I'm going to have some final thoughts at the end. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and unbox this. Like I said, this is the 6th gen Wi-Fi with cellular iPad Pro 12.9 with the M2, 256 gigs. Put that over there. Take out the iPad. And the propaganda here. And we've got our USB-C charger with cable. I like that. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it has that nice braided cable there. And it's really nice to have. So there you go. I believe this is a 20-watt charger. So we'll put that off to the side there. And then let's go ahead and box out of the way. We'll get the propaganda here and we'll check that out. We'll slip this out. Hopefully we have some stickers. Alright, talks a little bit about the features of the iPad Pro. So, good to have. I think this is our safety sheet here. And then, lo and behold, our white Apple stickers. Good to have. Got a little bit of a collection going. Alright, let's go ahead and check out the iPad itself. Well, it looks really nice. It doesn't look too much different from the one that I have already. So that's great. I'm going to go ahead and grab my M1 iPad, and if you put them next to each other, I'm not necessarily sure you could tell the difference. I know I can't. Let's check out this size here. Exactly the same, and the same thickness. USB-C speakers.
Here's what I found.
Look at that. Pretty much the same all the way around. Same cameras. I really couldn't tell the difference. Oh, it looks like I'm turning that one on. Okay. Alright, one thing that I did notice that was different, that was on the back of the iPad, And just notice the two little pieces of paper here signifying this is the M1 and this is the M2. On the back of the M1 it says iPad, but on the back of the M2 it says iPad Pro. So a little bit of a difference there. Before we start benchmarking though, one thing I do want to check out, here's my M1 iPad. I want to grab the Magic Keyboard here and see if this just fits right in and connects up. Fits like a glove. And then, I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference between the two. I want to compare the differences between the iPad Pro 12.9 M2 versus last year's version that had the M1, because I think the list of differences is a lot shorter than what's similar about the two units. First of all, they both come with USB-C connection that supports Thunderbolt 4, but the Bluetooth connectivity has been upgraded from Bluetooth 5.0 that was in the M1 version last year to Bluetooth 5.3 in the M2 version for this year. I'm not sure if that's significant or if it's even noticeable, but it is an upgrade. Obviously, this year has the M2 chip versus last year that had the M1. The M2 does boast a 10-core GPU versus last year's 8-core GPU. This year's model also supports ProRes video recording up to 4K at 30 FPS and 1080p at 30 FPS for the 128 gigabyte version of this year's tablet. It also supports Smart HDR4 for photos versus last year's Smart HDR3 for photos. It also, obviously, when we did the unboxing, comes with the braided USB-C cable in the box instead of that plastic cable from last year. One difference in the display is the Apple Pencil support. Both use the second generation Apple Pencil, but now the M2 version boasts the Apple Pencil hover, and as you can see in detecting the tip, it's about 12 millimeters away from the display, and you can see the dot on the screen there. And so that is definitely a difference. I'm not sure if that is helpful or not when drawing or creating some kind of like for me for thumbnails, but I'm going to figure it out and I'll let you know. Anyway, those are some of the differences that we've found between the last year's model and this year's. All right, we're going to start out with GFX bench metal for our first synthetic benchmarking test, and we're going to start it off here. Okay, so here is the results from our benchmarking here, and you can already tell Aztec Ruins high tier on the M1 got 3001 frames, and on the M2 it got 3639 frames. So I'm just going to scroll down here so you can take a look at all the results, and I'll try to be even with it if I can. And you can slow this down so you can get these scores in more detail. Looks like that's the end. So the next benchmarking, we're going to do 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme, and it'll benchmark comparing the graphic performance of mobile computing devices. So let's go ahead and we'll start both of them here at the same time. And already the M1 is falling a bit behind. Okay, here's the scores for 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme. On the M1, we got an average frame rate of 30.4 FPS, and on the M2, we got an average frame rate of 39.3. Is that enough to make a difference? Will you notice it in gaming? I'm not sure. The overall score for the M2 was 6,566, and the overall score for the iPad Pro from last year is 5,083 with the M1 chip. Okay, last synthetic benchmarking with Geekbench 5. We're going to start out with the CPU benchmark first, and let's go ahead and run those. Alright, the Geekbench 5 CPU scores are definitely different. So for the M1 we got a single core score of 1703, and on the M2 we got a single core score of 1855. Then the multi-core score on the M1 was 7,255, and on the M2 it was a multi-core score of 8,478. So I want to scroll down here as well so you can get all the details around the single core performance and then multi-core performance, and you can definitely slow this down so you can get those in more detail. Alright, I'm going to run the compute. Okay, for the Geekbench compute score for the M1 we got 21,168, and for the M2 we got 33,450. That seems significant to me, and so I'm just going to scroll down here so we can get those scores in more detail. So we went out to browserbench.org and we're running Speedometer. It's a browser benchmark that measures responsiveness of web applications. So we're going to go ahead and start the test right now, and we'll see what the outcome is. The speedometer test is just about complete, and the M1 is lagging just a little bit behind the M2. 387 on the M2 and a 320 score on the M1. So there is a little bit of a difference. Okay, so that's it for the M2 iPad Pro 12.9 version. And we did do some comparisons during this video against the M1 iPad Pro from last year, 12.9 inch. We could have gone a little bit longer on this video, but it was starting to get a little redundant, and I didn't want to go over things that have already been reviewed already on other videos from other reviewers. Speaker quality, it's the same speakers, they're the same. I checked them out, they sound the same. The cameras, there's really no difference. It has center stage on both, they're both in the portrait mode and instead of landscape, so they're over to the side here instead of on top of the iPad, where it looks like you are looking off to the side when conferencing with somebody, which is a little awkward. I wish they'd put it up here, but I understand why they're not, and it's because of this you know, the Apple Pencil. It sits on top here and charges, and so there's some mechanisms in there, and for them to try to put a camera in there, I just don't think they have enough room. So they may need to configure that a little differently in the next version, or whatever they want to do. You know, so it pretty much the only significant difference in the two iPad Pros is the M1 versus the M2, and there are some slight performance differences. We did some gaming using Genshin Impact, and we did see a slight lag difference between the M1 and the M2, but it's ever so slight. I'm not necessarily sure that if you were looking for it, you would even notice. So anyway, there is that. Out on the Apple website, we got the M2 iPad Pro for around $1,300, and this is the 1 terabyte version. But I did notice out on the Apple Refurbished website that they do have the M1 chip iPad Pro 12.9 for around $899. That's quite a deal, and it's, like I said, the 512 version. So would I go for the $400 to $500 difference in iPad Pro, but get, you know, the 512 storage versus the 1 terabyte for the M2? I probably would. I probably would go for the M1 versus the M2, just due to the expense alone. So anyway, there is that. You make your own decisions. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this from Tech by Pike, hit the subscribe button. We appreciate it. It helps the channel. Not only that, it gives us an opportunity to bring more videos like this to you. And for that, we thank you. We'll see you in the next one.